Hey guys, welcome back to another today's video. And in today's video, it's gonna be a brand new political discussion based video. And in this discussion video, it's gonna be about something that's currently going on in today's politics, where there's been some debate on whether or not we should reform the Supreme Court. And as some people want to reform it, like the progressive Democrats, they want to pack the courts. People like AOC are chanting to pack the court. They even tweeted that we should pack the court after what happened last year when the Republicans confirmed Amy Coney Barrett right during really near a couple of weeks before the election. It was that they confirmed President Trump's appointment during an election season, and some Democrats didn't like that because the people should ultimately have a say. The Democrats just wanted to wait after the election, and I said this before in an earlier video of mine, and I'm not going to sound like a hypocrite in the end, but everyone does change it overall. But not to get off topic here, the Democrats just wanted to wait after the election, let the people decide, let them elect their members, and then we can hold an appointment, let the voters decide who becomes the next president, which coincidentally is President Biden got elected on November 3rd, 2020, and he would be able to pick who the next Supreme Court justice would be to fill in the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat in the U.S. Supreme Court. And but the Republicans and Democrats accused Republicans of being hypocritical because I have to somewhat agree with Democrats here. Republicans were kind of being complete hypocrites when they told Obama back in former President Obama back in 2016, when President Obama wanted to confirm, he nominated Merrick Garland to be Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, but Republicans said, hey, just wait until let the voters decide. Let the voters elect a Republican president. Maybe they want a Republican to nominate a Supreme Court judge. And so, and then flip to 2020, Republicans are kind of being hypocritical now. But ultimately, in my opinion, where I really think of my overall issue, I think the reason why this topic became a very big issue is because, in my opinion, I don't think it's just Republicans' fault. Yes, they were being quite hypocritical, honestly, during the 2020 election. But as well, you gotta understand though, it's also Democrats' fault also, because they were back when the Democrats had control of the Senate back in 2013, 2012, and in 2014 when Harry Reid was majority leader before it was Chuck Schumer. He was the one that changed the Senate rules for us. He changed it to make it easier to appoint circuit court judges. And guess what? That set up very bad precedent where when President Trump was elected and Republicans had control of the House and the Senate, they decided, you know what? Since Harry Reid got rid of changed the Senate rules to actually confirm circuit court judges, we're just going to change the Senate rules to actually confirm Supreme Court judges, and to make it easier for us, where it only takes a simple majority to nominate our nominees to the highest court in the land. And ultimately, in my opinion, it's the Democrats' fault. It's also the Democrats' fault because they're the ones that changed the Senate rules. And in my opinion, it was a mistake for Harry Reid to make that change, because now it's one of the reasons why the Democrats are put in this position, why the Republicans were able to get a 6-3 originalist or conservative supermajority on the Supreme Court. It's ultimately, in my opinion, the Democrats' fault why this ended up happening. But Republicans also have some blame in it because they were being quite hypocritical in 2020, because in 2016 they said to Obama, just wait until after the election. until when the voter, if the voters chose a president, that duly elected president should be able to pick who gets to fill that Supreme Court seat. So the Republicans are kind of being very hypocritical on that level, but it's ultimately the Republicans and Democrats' fault why we're in this predicament, why this is becoming a problem, in my opinion. It's the Democrats changing the Senate rules when they had control of the Senate to make it easier to confirm circuit court judges, and then the Republicans expanded upon it, and also being complete hypocrites in 2020, and not waiting until after who the voters decided to be the next president during the 2020 election. And so, and this is a very important issue, because the way Biden is going about it, he decided to appoint a commission to look into the Supreme Court, to see what type of changes should be made to our judicial system to make it more, to maintain the nonpartisan feature of the courts. But as well, right after Biden started the commission, progressive Democrats, people like Ed Markey, introduced legislation to actually add 4 new members to the United States Supreme Court. And it says right here, Democrats plan to add 4 judges to give them a majority of the Supreme Court. And honestly, my overall opinion about the U.S. about packing the courts, I do not agree with this proposal, because it's going to, just like the Democrats when they had control of the Senate, and when Harry Reid was Senate Majority Leader, it's going to set a very bad predicament. It's going to set a very bad precedent, ultimately, simply because if the Democrats do decide to pack the court and add 4 new members to the U.S. Supreme Court, and what I've been hearing as well, they want also to get rid of the filibuster. That's going to set a very, very bad precedent on our court system, because guess what? Republicans are going to actually apply that same principle to what the Democrats did. And let's say they do take back the Senate at some point in the near future. What's going to happen is Republicans are going to pack the courts again. It's going to become an ongoing cycle. Democrats take back the Senate, Republicans take back the Senate, and they're going to keep on packing the court to favor them politically. It's going to make the court far more partisan, and the courts are going to lose ultimately all their credibility. And the American people are going to see the court as more partisan, and that's something we do not want. We want to make sure the courts maintain that nonpartisan feature that the founders set up, in my opinion. And it's one of the reasons why I'm against it, is packing the court, because it's going to set a very bad precedent. And there's better reforms that we can make to packing the court. Not packing the court. There are some other reforms that we can make to our judicial system to keep that and to maintain the nonpartisan feature, but as well to make it fair for all people in this country, and to making sure all people feel like they have a voice in our Congress, in our executive branch, and most notably in our court system, to keep the courts nonpartisan and free from any partisan activities. But I'm not saying, but just like that, and even though I'm against packing the court, and the Democrats' argument why we should pack the court, like the Republicans weaponize the Supreme Court to weaken our democracy and obstruct progress. Well, essentially, that is not true, actually, because ultimately it's the Democrats' fault for changing the Senate rules to make it easier to only require a simple majority to confirm appointments to circuit court judges. It's their fault why they're in this. How would I put this? That they're between this hard place right now, and ultimately packing the court, it's gonna set a very bad precedent that the Democrats might not even want to go this route, because in my opinion, the Republicans, guess what? All the Republicans have to do is win back the Senate, just have a simple majority to pack the courts. They're gonna add they're gonna keep packing to keep adding more and more conservative judges, and the Democrats are gonna keep doing it again and again and again and again. Both parties are gonna keep doing it again and again and again until the courts become very, very political. And that's, and like I'm gonna repeat myself again, that's not something we want. And honestly, and but there are pros and cons to packing the courts. Um, and I'm going to go into these top two pros of packing the courts. One of the pros that people make when packing the court, people make the argument that the Supreme Court is politically partisan and ideologically imbalanced. Adding judges would ensure that it never reflects only one party's political agenda. And they say, based on the description I'm going to read, on the last 19 Supreme Court justices, Republicans have appointed 15 or 79%. As of September 2020, with the death of Associate Justice Ginsburg, the court has 5 conservative judges and 3 liberal judges. Because Trump filled the seat that historical precedent says should have been filled by Obama. A third Trump appointee to fill Ginsburg's seat further imbalances the court. When this sort of imbalance exists, court packing should be considered. Lee Greenberg and Ezra Levin, progressive political organizers, argued, we absolutely have to address the right-wing imbalance of the current court right now. There is no way to rebalance the court without expanding it. Ian Milhesier, JD Senior Fellow at the Center for American Progress and editor of Think Progress Justice, explains the danger of a partisan court. A rigidly partisan Supreme Court risks radicalizing the electorate against democracy itself, and thus the case for court packing is clear. And the course of action is obvious if the Supreme Court tries to rig elections so that only Republicans can win nationally. A conservative court could ensure Republicans' domination by ruling on matters like voting rights, essentially disallowing voting by a majority of Democratic groups like Black voters with voter ID. Okay, voter ID. I mentioned this in earlier videos and also on another person's channel that voter ID laws are not voter suppression. Period. Felon voting, and other disenfranchising laws. According to Sam Berger, JD, Vice President, Democracy and Government Reform at the Center for American Progress, Republicans have engaged in court packing. The demands a democratic response. If allowed to stand, conservative court packing will have real consequences for a generation or more. Conservative judicial ideologies can limit rigorous campaign finance reform, place a judicial stamp of approval on anti-democratic gerrymandering and voter suppression, undermine unions and gut reproductive rights. They can also undermine future efforts at progressive reform through specious legal claims. And once the Supreme Court has ruled something unconstitutional, it can shut down policymakers in that space completely. While the 2020 court packing debate is about a majority conservative Supreme Court, the political spectrum could easily be flipped, with conservatives fearing the loss of their ideals. The makeup of the Supreme Court should not reflect partisan politics, but it should instead reflect the will of the people and be beholden only to the U.S. Supreme Court. Well, as much as that, in my opinion, as that pro packing the court as these people are making it out to be, as much as that sounds good on paper, in my opinion, it's only going to make it more partisan, because who knows? Republicans just might take back the court, who knows? Republicans are going to, who knows if the Republicans take back the Senate a few election cycles into the future, and they're going to also pack the court. It's going to send, and guess what? It's going to actually make the court even more partisan. It's going to reflect even more partisan politics if you pack the court. Because if the Democrats carry this through and pack the court and add 4 more liberal judges, it's going to give them a majority, and then the Republicans are going to pack it one more time to give them a majority again, to give the conservatives a majority again, and it's going to keep. It's going to be an ongoing cycle of partisan politics on the courts, and that's something we do not want to avoid. And that's something we do not want to happen to our courts, our beloved court judicial system. We want to make sure it's always nonpartisan, and packing the courts won't do that. It's just going to make it even more partisan and more political. And but going even forward, The negative that people have, the con about why we should not even consider packing the U.S. Supreme Court, is the fact that the Supreme Court is largely balanced. Court packing would increase political interference in an independent branch of government. It's a slippery slope that would allow each president to add justices for ranked political reasons. The appointment of justices is mostly balanced historically. Since 1912, when the two major political parties settled into their current ideologies, 52 judges have been appointed, 28 by 10 Republican presidents and 24 by 7 Democratic presidents. Michael H. McGinley, JD lawyer and former Supreme Court law clerk for Justice Alito, argued that packing the court would threaten the rule of law and judicial independence. He reasoned, while the press tends to focus on the small handful of 5-4 decisions in high-profile cases, the justices more often find themselves in broad agreement on the most difficult legal issues of the day. And when there are more disagreements, they are based on legitimate and reasonable differences of opinion about the law, not the justice's personal policy preferences. Aaron Hawley, JD, Associate Professor of Law and former law clerk to Chief Justice John Roberts, and Heather Higgins, CEO of Independent Women's Voice, noted, the argument about balance implies that the term conservative and liberal apply to judges just like they do to political parties, even though those words would have different meanings and applications when it comes to judicial philosophy. Even Vice President Joe Biden, 2020 Democratic presidential nominee, is wary of court packing, stating in 2019, "No, I'm not prepared to go on and try to pack the court because we'll live to rue that day." He later elaborated, "We had 3 justices. Next time around, we lose control. They had 3 justices. We begin to lose any credibility the court has at all." As Washington Post reporter Amber Phillips explained, court packing can be seen as a maneuver that could come back to haunt the Democrats when they're out of power. What's to stop a Republican president and Republican Congress from expanding it even more to get what they want? That was a feature of the Reconstruction era. Plus, the Supreme Court is fiercely independent, undercutting a simplistic view of its partisan leaning. Of the 67 decisions in 2019, the 4 Democrat-appointed judges voted together 51 times, and the 5 Republican appointees 37 times. Only 7 cases had the expected political split. The Supreme Court should not be subject to the rank political machination at the heart of court packing. I 100% agree. And you know what? This is something I can see where I can agree with President Joe Biden on. This is what I've been saying all along. It's only going to make the court even more political and partisan, and this is going to haunt the Democrats even more, like what happened when Harry Reid changed Senate rules to make it to only require a simple majority to confirm and appoint to confirm or appoint circuit court or federal judges. It's going to even haunt the Democrats even more because Republicans are going also to want to expand the court to make the court even more supportive of their ideas and their policies. The Supreme Court, like what the negatives say about packing the court, is that we need to keep it fiercely independent. We need to keep it nonpartisan as possible, because in my opinion, that's a good thing, because packing the court will only destroy the credibility that average Americans have, on their views of the court. We need to keep it nonpartisan and nonpartisan and unbiased to any political party. We're making sure it's not political, it's always nonpartisan. As well, a second pro why some advocates saying packing the court would be better is that a historical precedent, the second pro says, historical precedent allows for more than 9 Supreme Court justices, and there are no laws against having more than 9. The U.S. Constitution does not specify the number of justices on the Supreme Court. As the Supreme Court FAQ's page notes, the Constitution places the power to determine the number of justices in the hands of Congress. The first Judiciary Act, passed in 1789, set the number of justices at 6, 1 Chief Justice and 5 associates, Over the years, Congress has passed various acts to change this number, fluctuating from a low of 5 to a high of 10. The Judiciary Act of 1869 fixed the number of justices at 9, and no subsequent change to the number of justices has occurred. Originally, there were 6 justices. The number was reduced to 5 in 1801, increased to 6 in 1802, 7 in 1807, to 9 in 1837, and to 10 in 1863, before shrinking to 7 in 1866 and rising again to 9 in 1869. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt asked Congress to increase the number to up to 15 in 1937, but Congress did not agree. Ultimately, the number of Supreme Court justices is arbitrarily, easily revised by Congress and ripe for change. Court packing could signal a new era of nonpartisanship in the Supreme Court. As much as they are right, and I do kind of see eye to eye that we had more. The Supreme Court didn't start at 9 at first. We had up. It was originally there were 6 judges in the year of 1789, but it got small. But it reduced in size to only 5 since 1801. And they are right about that. They have that one strength to them is that the Constitution does not specify a number of judges on the Supreme Court. And that's ultimately, in my opinion, is that they do have that. It is constitutional what they do, but should we do it is the question. And honestly, you know what I'm going to argue. We should not pack the court because it's only going to make the court far more partisan and far more political and it's going to destroy every single credibility that the courts have in our country. And that's not something we do not want to alter. The counter to this is that historical precedent most strongly supports a 9-judge Supreme Court. While the U.S. Supreme Constitution does not specify the number of Supreme Court justices, neither does it specify that judges must have law degrees or have served as judges. However, historical precedent has set basic job requirements for the position as well as solidify the number of justices. The Supreme Court has had 9 justices consistently since 1868, when Ulysses S. Grant was president. Changing the number of justices has been linked to political convening. I could be pronouncing that wrong. Whether the 1866 shrinkage to prevent Johnson's appointment or the 1801 removal of one seat by President John Adams to prevent incoming President Thomas Jefferson from filling a seat, or the 1937 attempt by Roosevelt to get the New Deal passed the court, we should not break with over 150 years of historical precedent to play political games with the Supreme Court. Jeff Greenfield, journalist, warns that breaking with precedent would cause trouble, stating, if Congress pushes through a restructuring of the court on a strictly partisan vote, giving Americans a Supreme Court that looks unlike anything they grew up with, and unlike the institutions we've had for more than 240 years. Think about that, 240 years. It's hard to imagine the country as a whole would see its decisions as legitimate. And ultimately, in my opinion, this is exactly why I'm against it. This is going to only make the courts far more political. This is only going to make this type of institution in our judicial system far more partisan, far more political, because if the Democrats go about this and restructure the courts and add 4 new liberal judges, that might seem that it might be balanced because the liberals are going to get what they want because they're just going to add 4 more judges where the liberals now have a majority. That's going to set a very, very, very bad unprecedented, and it's going to really, in my opinion, destroy the trust and the credibility and the nonpartisan features that the American people see, that the American view on the Supreme Court. And that's not something, and I'm going to repeat myself again, that's not something we should be altering. But but when it comes to reforms, there are other good reforms that we can make to our country's judicial system. And that's something I'll be going to actually right now, And this is actually going to be proposing a constitutional amendment. And currently there's only like 27 amendments that have been, like, there's been like close to 11,000 amendments that have been proposed, but they have failed. And there's only been 27 amendments that were ratified by the United States Constitution. And this new amendment, the 28th Amendment, and as I said, once said, this is a brand new constitutional amendment where this time the 28th Amendment, as it states, the 28th Amendment to the United States Constitution will reform our judicial system to make it more modernized for the times we live in and to maintain the nonpartisan feature and credibility that every American looks up to. When it comes to the Circuit Court, Federal, and Supreme Court as the last line of defense to protect our rights and our liberty, and to maintain and preserve the trust that many Americans view and look up to on the courts. And the main alteration to the Supreme Court is changing Supreme Court associate and chief justice terms. This means with this constitutional amendment, this gets rid of life terms for associate justices and the chief justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court associate justice and the chief justice will serve 12 years and can still be eligible to be renominated and reappointed to the position that they were nominated and appointed for last time. This is there to make, ultimately, in my opinion, make everyone happy. Because right now, it may seem that we have a 63 Supreme Court majority, but once their 12-year term, once they've served 12 years, they can be renominated or reappointed, or they can be replaced by a totally different nominee to be appointed to replace their seat, and it's going to satisfy everyone. It's a win-win scenario. Ultimately, in my opinion, no one like someone like Ruth Bader Ginsburg should not be serving should not be serving in her 90s or in her 80s on the Supreme Court. They're far too old. I think we always need like new people when people do reach their 90s. We always need newer and younger judges, or older, newer and still while also still experienced judges to serve on the courts. And I think this would be a fair idea, because I think this is something Republicans and Democrats might actually agree on, to actually make the courts a little bit more nonpartisan and not political. And this is so much better than packing the courts, because that's going to set a far more bad precedent. And then altering the Supreme Court associate and chief justice terms, getting rid of their life terms, where they only serve 12 years and not for life. It's going to create far more transparency, and they can't just and it's going to completely end political pressuring from one party to actually pressure a judge to retire. And because all they have to do is just wait until their term is up to see if they should be renominated, reappointed, or replace them with a new nominee and appoint that new nominee to fill to succeed the other judge that's planning to actually that did not get renominated to serve on the Supreme Court. And the final major part of this amendment that would ultimately change how we confirm judicial appointments is the fact that this is the biggest ideal that another person on Fox News said. There shall be no Senate vote to confirm any judicial appointment if it is Supreme Court or Circuit Court's judge during an election season, which means during an election season, there can be no judicial appointment. This is there to make all people happy, and ultimately, no one's going to be hypocrites at all. No one's going to be hypocrites at all. And this is all, in my opinion, this is a good change. And it's going to satisfy everyone, and everyone's going to feel like they have a real voice, and the American people can be in the process of electing the president, and whoever the next president, or if the president's reelected, then he can appoint a Supreme Court judge after he's elected and sworn in the month of January. As well, this is also going to revert the change that Harry Reid made where it made it a lot easier to confirm circuit court and federal court judges, meaning this is reverting back to the 60 vote threshold, meaning this goes back to what it was before, where 60 votes is needed to confirm someone as associate judge or chief judge to serve on the highest court in the land. But as well, this also means that 60 votes is also needed to confirm a circuit/federal court judge. This means that parties can still filibuster an appointment, and ultimately, in my opinion, this is also going to force a lot more collaboration and a lot more cooperation from all parties to actually come down to the averages and appoint someone that all parties can agree with. And once again, it's going to make everybody happy, in my opinion. But overall, in my opinion, I think that this new constitutional amendment, the 28th Amendment, as I said, would actually make, in my opinion, would be a better reform to our country's judicial system, because it's going to make everybody happy. It's going to add, I think, adding term, getting rid of the life terms and establishing a 12-year term for associate and Supreme Court and the Chief Justice on the Supreme Court, or setting a rule where there can be no Senate vote to confirm any judicial appointment during election season. If it's reverting back to the 60 vote threshold, will maintain the credibility and the nonpartisan feature that many Americans agree, look up to, like about our court system, in my opinion. Because ultimately, in my opinion, this is a better solution than packing the court. Packing the court will only make the court far more political than that Americans do not want it to be. Majority of Americans don't want to pack the court. This is only going to make the 20th Amendment would be a better solution, in my opinion, a better reform, a better compromise to actually make all sides, to make make liberals, conservatives, and everyone that's on, no matter where you lean on the political spectrum, everyone will be happy if Congress does propose my 20th Amendment. I would be happy because my voice is actually getting out there. This is a far better solution. Establishing term limits, establishing a 12-year term to Supreme Court and Associate Chief Justices, and also reverting the change Senate rule where it actually where it takes 60 votes to confirm an associate or chief justice to serve on the Supreme Court, and as well as 60 votes needed to confirm a circuit/federal court judge, and the fact that no vote should be no vote to confirm any appointments to any of the court, to the Supreme Court or the Circuit Court during an election season. Let the people decide, but during an election process, and right when you're in the middle of election, the people have to decide who the next president is, who controls the Senate, who controls the House, and after the election, and the people have spoken. That's when the politicians can act. That's when the president can act to nominate a circuit court, because the people decided who the next president is going to be, and that gives the president the right to confirm a Supreme Court judge. But overall, let me hear where you guys stand on this discussion about reforming our good country's judicial system. Do you guys completely agree with me that we should have term limit, that we should revert back to the 60 vote threshold to confirm judges to our circuit courts and to the Supreme Court, and the fact that we should not hold a Senate vote to confirm any judicial appointment during an election season? And do you also agree that we should establish 12-year terms and get rid of the life terms on the Supreme Court for associate and chief justice? And ultimately, as well, do you guys agree or disagree with me about my opinion on court packing? Do you think it's the right approach? So let me hear where you guys stand on this issue, because ultimately we can all be agents of change that will reimagine the promise of America for generations to come. Because ultimately, we all have great ideas, we all have great solutions. We just have to collaborate and cooperate with each other civilly as civil citizens to actually to generate really great ideas and solutions that will fix the major problems and improve upon everyday Americans' lives, to make it to truly create a country where all people are created equal under God and everyone has the right to life, liberty, and to the pursuit of happiness. So Thank you guys so much for watching once again. And don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down below to share your opinion on where you stand on reforming the country's judicial system. And until next time, guys, this is the Young Centrist, and I am out.